Okay. Hi, I am here with the amazing and lovely Sandy, who has been connected with us for a while. And I am so honored that you are here and talking with me today. Thank you so much for being here. And I just wanted to open
I'm
up.
so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to open up this conversation because you are somebody in our group who I've noticed has been such an active participant and really like getting amazing results in the program. And really, you're just somebody who shows up. You were like from day one, you're just like, I'm in this, I'm doing this. And your enthusiasm and your energy is contagious. And I know that you inspire other people in the group and you inspire me every day. So I just want to thank you so much for being here.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It's true. So what I want to do is have a conversation, really casual, about, what your experiences have been in the program. And I just want to hear from you. And I'm sure other people want to hear from you too, because there are lots of parents out there who, who are struggling with their parenting and they don't really know where to turn. And, maybe you can help them by talking about your experiences a little bit. Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd love to.
So Sandy's got, just so everybody out there knows, Sandy's got an 11-year-old boy, and he does have an ADHD diagnosis. And let's just start with the obvious question about what made you join Connected. How'd you find me and how'd you join?
Well, actually, it was a blessing because you actually came to our elementary school and did a little talk on parenting with peaceful discipline, which I was very grateful for because I did not have that growing up. And we had like about 8 different subjects or 8 different people we could see. And I was like, I can't wait to go and see her. And I went just so I could see you.
Aww.
And so I loved everything that you said. And I was like, I'm in. I totally want to be a part of this. And I remember I didn't even care how much it cost. I was like, this is so great. Like, I just want to do this. I'll figure out a way. Like, I really want to hear what she has to say.
Yeah. I remember you like came up to me. It was like a loving tackle. It felt like a loving tackle after, because you'd seen me once in the fall and then you saw me again. And right after the second time, you were like, I need to talk to you. I need to work with you. Like you were just so clear about it. And I was like packing up and I was like, I need to sit down and speak with you and hear what's going on, because you were just like, I can't do what I'm doing anymore. I need to, I know you're like, I should have talked to you. Like you waited, right? You like, I think you saw me at the first time. You were like, I should have grabbed you then. But I'm grabbing you now. And your energy was so, I could tell how motivated you were. And I was like, doing something, I was like, I need to put whatever I'm doing away and listen to what was going on. So tell me what was going on in your own words. When we first sat down that first time, you were like, what were you? Like what was going on?
Well, one of the things that I was super struggling with is the person that I co-parent with has a very different parenting style. And so that's very inconsistent for the child when one parent does it one way and one parent does it another way. So that was like one of the main things, which was also super frustrating to me as an individual, because we're completely on the different pages. And then that makes him want to constantly only take direction from me because I do it in a kinder way or a more gentle way. And it was really great for you to go through like the types of parenting styles so that I could be very clear on what type of parenting style I wanted in the household and to try to move us towards that.
Right. And so even though there wasn't maybe like initial buy-in from your co-parent, do you feel like that, like it was easier to get some buy-in with a plan, or like how did that kind of end up shaking out for you guys?
Well, kind of what I had hoped for, which was the byproduct of the co-parent agreeing to do it with me, is that no matter how much they are or are not invested, any little bit would help. What I didn't expect is for me to see how many different areas that I could do things differently and be not only the example for my child, but also the example for the co-parent. And it's all kind of working together. Now I have total buy-in from the co-parent. Doesn't mean that like they're seeing exactly how helpful all this is, and now very willing to do the daily lessons, don't take long, and very willing to stay on course and doesn't ever miss the sessions. So it's awesome.
Yeah. No, you two both really show up. It's awesome. So what about like the parenting methods themselves? Like this, your co-parent was like kind of reluctant and old school, and you were like, I want to do it this way. Has there been can you talk about if there's been any shift there from like, oh, this stuff actually works, or,
It absolutely does work. And this is like, it's such a weird phenomena, because when I was little and my parents used to do things, I remember thinking like, I'm never going to do that as a parent. And that was something that I was very clear about. What's interesting is how deep-seated that connection is with what they did to what you do, even though you're so cognitive that you don't want to do what they did, because what they did was not something that you found to be favorable. And in the long term, I've been in a lot of therapy because of it.
Yeah. Because what you're talking about is hardwiring, right? Like, in your head, you're like, I don't want to do what was done to me. But when your emotional back is against the wall, what's going to come out is what you're programmed to do. And what you're programmed to do is how you were parented, right?
Exactly. And it comes out at the most inopportune moment when the stress is high, and we're usually on a time frame, which we all get as parents, like we're trying to get to the next thing, or get the homework done because we need to eat dinner, or get the homework done because we have to do sports, or and that is, I notice, like when I'm stressed is when it's more likely for that very behavior and modeling that I don't want to do to come out. And then I just feel so bad about myself, like, about my parenting style, and then I feel like I have to make up for being a bad parent, and it just goes into a cycle that you don't want. One of the main things that I hear your voice all the time in my head is about front loading the experiences so that we have a positive outcome, or so that things progress in a positive and peaceful way.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm in your head about that.
Yeah, you are. You're like a little angel in there.
Yeah. Like people like, oh, I'm in your pocket, I'm in your head. So can you talk a little bit about like, maybe like the old way that you were doing things, and maybe now it's different for you, or like some results that you have, or like
one of the main things that I wanted to,
like successes, like your wins, but like a general shift first, and then I want to hear more about like something you're super proud of.
So one of the main things that I realized is that shame is a very seepy emotion. It's an emotion that filters through many areas. And so when you're talking to a kid and you're trying to correct them, they can take that very easily as criticism, and then feel like a lot of guilt and shame. And prior to coming to you, the main thing that I saw is that his self-esteem was low. And every time I tried to correct him, even if I did it in a gentle way, it kind of wasn't working. And then we got into the real consequence, where if you don't do this, you're going to get in a consequence. And he got very rebellious to that. So it was a lose, lose, lose.
Yeah.
And so what's super helpful is being clear that how I say things is often so much more important than actually the words that I'm saying, so that he doesn't start to internalize what I'm saying and feel shameful, which then like is a cobweb of a lot of different things that we don't want. So I'm super mindful. Like I love how you'll say, hey, this must be really hard. So he's struggling with homework that we're trying to catch up on because he missed a couple days of school for a family reunion, and he's starting to cry because he's, out of bandwidth, and we still have to get it done. And I go, instead of being like, hey dude, we didn't do it every day like we wanted to, and you refused to do that, so this is your consequence. I just said, this is tough, huh? Like, this is probably a good lesson not to do that.
Yeah. And how did that go for him? Like, how did he receive that, as opposed to like, kind of like what you were saying a moment ago, is like, I told you so. I told you we should have done it before, right? Mm-hmm. So like, and we know how that's received, but when you flip it and you do it differently, how is that received by him?
Well, then he was still quite tearful, just because he didn't, he was out of bandwidth like we all get. But he and I were still very connected during the experience, and it wasn't like I'm talking down to him and he's feeling like a bad kid, or I'm getting frustrated with him and he's asking me, are you disappointed in me? Which he used to do quite a bit, which was really scary to me. But he was just like, oh yeah, next time we're not waiting, and this is terrible. And he got really teary-eyed, and I said, you know, like, let's pull it together, and like, let's just do what we can. And he actually ended up doing a lot more than he thought he could, because we didn't have like a whole meltdown and an energy drain going into a different direction.
Right. That's so awesome. That's amazing. And how long have you been in the program? Because it's a 6 month, for those of you who don't know, it's a 6 month program. But somebody asked me the other day, she's like, so do I have to wait 6 months to start getting like the results you're talking about? What would you say?
No, I think we're on day like 52. So we're not even halfway through.
Right.
And I started really seeing results. I mean, thank God you start a little bit slow, or it could be a little bit overwhelming for us on top of everything else we're doing. But I really started to see week 3, like things really starting to click. And what I try to do is do the lesson in the morning before I start my day, so it sets my day, being a reminder that this is a little human being that has his own thoughts and his own feelings and doesn't want to do things certain times like I don't. Maybe I want to eat chicken, maybe I want to have fish, you know?
And it's so great that you do that. And yeah, I remember like I want to say even like 2 weeks in, you started posting it, and you're like, this is working. And you know, like, I just had this exchange, and it's so different than whatever, you know. And you're not the first person to start reporting having a shift very soon on, because what you're doing is you're disrupting a cycle, right? And anytime you're disrupting a cycle in a positive way, you're going to be having shifts very, very quickly. How long does it take you?
Well, and what's very interesting is when we change something, there's an automatic change in them. So that's how you experientially see it. Not just like 1 + 1 is 2. You start to see like 1 + 1 is 4, because I'm changing, and then he's changing to the response of me changing in a positive way.
Right. And then you respond differently to his response, and so on and
so exactly.
On. It's beautiful. It's very cyclical like that. That's awesome. How long does it take you to do the trainings each day, would you say, realistically?
I'd say the read through is just a few minutes, and then I actually like to put a little thought into the questions. They're super easy, but I don't want to just keep recycling the same things. Yeah. So I really want to put thought into what I'm seeing. And what's interesting is I actually just put all the lessons on a Word document. Oh. So I can go back and look at some of the old ones, and it's crazy because I'll read them and I'll be like, wow, I don't think like that anymore, because after 5 weeks, 6 weeks into it, my thinking has already so shifted from week 2.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. And that's what's really neat about keeping it in one document and just keep adding to the document.
That's so cool. I can't wait to hear what you say at the end, you know, like your thoughts at the very end of the program versus the thoughts at the very beginning. Because you're, like you said, you're not even halfway through. You're in like your 2nd month.
Yeah. And what's really neat is I keep one Microsoft document on my questions and what I write, which is so awesome for me to see my growth, because I'm kind of very hard on myself and hard on myself parenting, because I want to be so different than how I was parented. And when I see that automatic thing go off, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like my mom. This is making, like, I feel like ill over it. Yeah. And so what's neat is for me to go back and see my own progress, to pat my own self on the back, because it's really hard. And this is my 2nd round of raising a child, and the first round was pre-electronics, pre the cell phones, pre the video games, and that has brought in a whole pre-social media. That has brought in a whole nother dynamics of stuff that's really complicated parenting, and how much they want to do that, and how much we have to redirect away from it.
Totally. It's a whole new game, and we're natives. Like we're brand new, and our kids are growing up as natives with the social media and the electronics. So we're trying to figure it out for ourselves, you know, at the same time trying to teach them social media. That's a whole other can of worms. Yeah, it's a difficult time to parent. My mother and my in-laws always say to me, they're like, I'm so glad, like, we had our own challenges, but I'm so glad we didn't have to deal with the social media thing. You know, it's like crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's totally crazy. And none of us are equipped for it, and none of our brains are wired for it. You know, it's insane. It's totally insane. So tell me, like, a highlight for you, like something that you already told me an amazing story, but is there something that you feel like most proud of in the work that you're doing, or the results that you're getting, or things that you're seeing shift at home?
Well, what's interesting is, so my guy lost a parent. And so that was very stressful for him at a very, very young age. So he was 4, he's 11 now. And he also had a relative hit him, which I have not actually shared with you, and break his arm when he was 5. So he's had like a lot of stress.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so I'm actually not his birth mother. I'm his aunt that, as you know, but I'm just sharing for the public. I'm his aunt that took over the situation.
Right,
So he had a lot of, you know, kind of difficult variables kind of early on. And so, you know, that, and he has ADHD. So he's very different than me. Like I was kind of like straight shooter, just did all my work, didn't talk back, just wanted to do, I was a rule follower. And he's more curious. And so what's great is you've made me realize like he's different than me, and you've given me the skills to parent a child who's very opposite, different than me.
Yeah.
And so that's been a big victory, because I really recognize him out now as a human being that has his own thoughts. And how do I talk to a friend that was like this?
Right. Even though
but still be a
you're
parent.
not giving up your parental authority to be his friend, but that same approach of respect.
Exactly. Because before I was kind of talking down to him without realizing that I was doing that. And now when I have more empathy for him and have tried to be more like, we're a team together and how can we get this done? And you've actually promoted me asking him more questions about how he can do things. And so his schoolwork went from 3s to 4s. And I'm so stoked about that, because he was not excited about school before.
Yes, that's amazing. And motivation has been a big issue. And like, for those of you who don't know, Sandy and I are both in California, luckily. And they don't do like A, B's, and C's in elementary school. They do 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s. So 4 is basically A's, and I don't know why we do that, but whatever. So he moved a whole level up from that B level to the A level.
Yes.
No, even though he has challenges and he has a learning difference and all of that stuff, he's a smart kid and he's capable of achieving things. And you are raising him in a way to become his best self. And it's beautiful.
And that's what we're hoping for. And what helps is just being aware. Yeah. So like one of the big, as we all know, when we're in family reunions, we get our buttons pushed because the family's around. So we were just away with 23 people. Going on vacation with 23 people is always interesting. 13 kids and the rest adults. And I noticed, and it was Easter weekend, by the way. So I noticed that one of the sisters-in-laws were like, you know, John's like looking in the basket of the other kids. She's just kind of that personality. Yeah. And before I would usually be like, John, don't go in the basket, you know, and so-and-so's basket or whatever. And, you know, I turned around to her and I said, of course he is. He's an 11-year-old boy and he's curious. He just wants to see what other people got. And that was like such a shining moment for me.
Yes, totally.
For multiple reasons.
Whatever, I got this. Like, you're so confident and grounded that like her judgy thing didn't even shake you.
Mm-hmm. Right? But what was awesome about it was he was so happy. I didn't have conflict with her, which I usually do. And the other sister-in-law was like, wow, you nailed that. You nailed that. I was like, I learned it in my parenting class.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is huge. That's like huge.
It's so great.
On so many levels. That's so beautiful. Wow.
Well, because what I wanted to say to her was, mind your own business and your own kids. You got your own problems. Stay out of my stuff. Like, that's kind of like how defensive I get with her, because she's so on everybody. And it just diffused the whole situation and kept the, you know, Easter, you know, pleasant. I didn't get all triggered where I was like stuffing down what I wanted to say to her. It was great.
Good. So good, because you're in alignment with all of this and it's feeling good, and you can just say it. You're not like, say the thing and then later on you're like, oh, I should have said this, or I could have said that, or yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I'm so glad we're,
you know, my brain.
So great. Oh my goodness. So who do you think this program is good for?
I think the program is good for anyone that really wants to raise a child with healthy self-esteem. Like, one of the main things that someone said to me, like, as a parent, what do you think the very one thing you could give your kids? And I really feel like that is good coping skills, because if you don't have good coping skills through life, it is very hard to roll with things that happen, and life happens, right? And so I feel like this program is excellent for anyone, because it helps give you the tools that you need to recognize what's happening before it happens and before we have I call them hiccups, you know, and I want him to be, you know, so that John can tell me like, well, you're having a hiccup, and he holds the pillow out for me to punch.
Are you guys doing that now?
Yeah.
I love it.
It was so funny too, because the other day I was getting really frustrated because I was like, dude, we got to get this done. And I don't do well under when he's like kind of getting disoriented and we have to be somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came over with the pillow in his hand and he's like, hit the pillow. And it made us laugh. And it just, we laughed, and then everything was great after that. And it's really building his self-confidence to see, you know, that we can move through things, and it's not like a monumental, terrible thing because he's had tragedy. So he holds stuff really close.
Right, right. And as parents, we can often slip into that, like, we have to sit down and we have to have a talk and we have to, you know, it's like feels heavy, especially if we have a challenging kid. But even if just in regular parenting, it's like it can start to feel very heavy at times. And this whole notion of like having a whole bag of tools to use to like lighten things up and to keep things moving and to have the strategies while empathizing, not looking over other people's pain. It's very, you just sound so empowered and so clear. And it's like, I'm so proud of you. And I have a friend who says, I'm so proud. She says, I'm so proud for you. Like I am proud for you too. Like, that's awesome.
Thank you. And it actually, you've made it easy. You've made it easy, because before I felt like I was exasperated when I came to you, because I felt like I've got this co-parent that's like a 180 for me. I'm trying to work full time. I'm trying to take care of, you know, technically my nephew. This all kind of fell on my lap, not expecting it to fall on my lap. And it's a child very different than me that has like a lot of emotional needs. Yeah. But you made it super easy. And part of that is, you know, I do professional coaching and training for a living. And so I'm used to talking to adults, and now I have to do this with a child. So one of the things you taught me really was shortening up stuff as well. Yeah. You know, really shortening up stuff for a kid, so that sometimes he'd tune me out, I think, because I would try to make sure he was understanding what I would say. And he actually did this to me. And I was like, okay, that's what Lainey's talking about. Too many words.
Too many words. And with adults too, like you can see, even if you're presenting, like they glaze over and you're like, oh, I slipped into Charlie Brown teacher mode, you know? Yeah, shortening things up. So go ahead.
The other thing that's super helpful is you're very clear and direct with us, super, super loving, but you're not afraid to be like, I don't think that might not be the best idea for these reasons. And it's very gentle, it's very loving. And I think people need to hear that. I mean, I have a relationship with my friends where they call me out if I need to be called out. I'm not talking about calling out because you're super loving and super graceful with us, but just like, you're like, I don't see what that consequence has to do with that behavior. And sometimes as a parent, you're exasperated and you're just trying to get the child to fall in line. And they're not. So you're like, I'll take away something you want because that's all I got in my bag right now. And you've given us more stuff in our bag to utilize, so it doesn't have to be that, you know, tit for tat, like if you don't do this, that's going to happen, because that doesn't actually promote connectedness with them. It promotes them wanting to be away from us.
Totally. And then at the end of the night, end of the night, how does that feel when they want to be away from us and we haven't promoted connection?
Not good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not going to be good as they get older, because you want them to feel close to you as they go into those teenage years, so that you can help guide them through those really tough experiences.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, this is a long game. Parenting in the long
I know. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we have to be, you know, seeing results short term as well, you know, better behavior and more respect along the way. But the concept is that it's a long game, and how do we plant the seeds to make, you know, to do it so that we get what we want in the long term, you know.
Well, and I also think it's super helpful that you said, like, we have to learn how to manage with, like, help the child to manage whatever their circumstances are, right? And even a child that goes through things very easily will have to manage when it becomes hard for them, because it will eventually. That might be in college. I don't know. But it's interesting because John came back to me and said the other day, you know, I'm doing great in math now, and I love it, because when you shared with me that it was too hard for me to be tempted if I sit in the back, and now I sit near the teacher, I don't talk and I don't get distracted and I pay attention, and now it's really easy for me. So that was like a major victory for him. Yes. He's like, I'm actually really, really smart.
Oh, That's amazing. From a kid who was like, I'm not so smart. I've got ADHD. Like, I can't do this, whatever.
Yeah. And also hating to go to school because he would recognize the difference between himself and the other kids because he's in 5th grade now and he can see.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're full of amazing. And you know why? You know, this isn't magic, right? Like, it's because you, like, I'm telling you, Sandy, from day one, you showed up and you were committed and you were coachable and you were like just ready. You were really ready. You showed up ready and you keep showing up and you're doing the work. And it's, some things are, you know, kind of simple, but they're not easy. Like stuff that I'll share with you in the group or wherever. It's like, it's a simple idea, but it's not easy. And more power to you because you show up and the results that you're getting are because you're doing the work and because of who you are in this. And it's just so beautiful to see you. And I'm so delighted. Like, I can't believe that this isn't like the end of the program for you. Like, if this was 6 months,
I can't wait. I can't imagine how much better it's going to get.
I mean, where's this going, right? Like, how is this going to be? I'm just like, I'm so thrilled for you. It's just going to keep
And
getting
what I love about the fact that it's 6 months too is that I'm going to get some time in the summer doing the program and sometime during the school year.
Yeah.
So that I'll be able to, I'll have different challenges with him in the summer than I will in the school year. The school year, obviously, we have more challenges because there's more stress on them to perform, right, at a young age.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I'm only going to get out of it what I put into it. So if I'm super passive and I'm expecting like some miracle to happen, it's not going to happen if I'm not actually trying. Like, I feel like I was exasperated more for the problems with my co-parent than anything else because that was just like causing me to come out sideways and spin, and then I didn't have as much patience for him.
Yeah.
But now I feel like so good. But I will say that what is also helpful is when the other parents share, 95% of the time there's something in what they're saying that I can completely relate to.
You're talking about the other parents in the connected membership group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
In our community. Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing bunch of people for sure who are.
And it's so great to listen to what they're going through too, because I'm like, oh, we had that happen last week and I didn't handle it like this. And this is great advice she's given. I'm going to put that in my memory brain for next time.
Yeah. Or this is something we haven't dealt with yet. And so I'm front loading myself and my own parenting for when this happens. Here's some things to think about, right?
Exactly.
Totally. So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with me and with everybody.
I'm so grateful that you came to talk to our class. Like, you know, you live in the same town as I do. So I got very, very lucky. But I mean, I was actually thinking like, I want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Even after this 6 months, because I feel like it really does help me to stay on track, and we'll have different challenges next year because we're moving to middle school.
Yep. Life happens.
I mean, that's how much I'm getting out of it. And I can see like the difference in him. Yeah. Like, he's really getting his confidence and he is cooperating so much more with us. And we use that word cooperation a lot. And we're not, you know, even that, you know, a lot of his teachers have come up to me and even some of the other parents have been like, wow, he's really like coming into his own. He's really grown up.
Yeah, that's
right.
Awesome. Totally. So you're getting feedback, and that's not why we do it, right? To get the feedback from other people, but when you get it, it feels really good.
Well, and I love too that you give us permission to put our kids as our priority. Like, we all in our brains go, of course our kids are priority, but someone was sharing that their child was being difficult during a sports event, and that they were embarrassed by that. And I've been there before, because sometimes like John's supposed to be like lined up next to his team and he's like doing circles and spins and, and I'm like, oh God. Yeah. But it's such great reminder. Like, it doesn't matter what other people think. We're doing our parenting the way we're doing it. And sometimes we just sit in what's uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable to see our kids doing that, but our priority is to be the one that is the unconditionally loving one to our child, not to our priority is not what other people think about our parenting skills.
Right. And following up on that, what we talked about because I know what you're talking about with the other person in the group, was the idea that you can't just do that in isolation. You can't just sit there and be like, I'm just going to parent the way that I'm parenting. Like, it's too vulnerable. Parenting is too vulnerable of a game, right? So the end thing of what I said to her was, know that you've got us. Like, we're your parenting tribe. You don't need the other
Yeah,
parents in the bleachers to be your parenting tribe. We're your tribe. We got you. Text us during the game if you're feeling however you're feeling, right? Like, we got you, you know? So
exactly.
you can't parent differently in isolation, you know, which is why, you know, connected, the community is such a huge piece of what we have going on. So people actually feel the support. I'm holding the hands and everybody else has got everybody else's back, which is to me an essential piece of it.
It's so true. And there's one parent who has a child same as I do, same age, same gender. And it's so great to like, I feel like I know her and she's like my friend, even though I've never met her or ever had a conversation with her, not even text her privately, like on the phone. But I feel like she gets me because she knows what's going on. And everyone needs reassurance from time to time. And I feel like we get our reassurance here. Like, okay, it doesn't matter what the other people think about us or whatever. Like, I'm doing my thing and I'm going to stay. Because what happens in those moments, that's when we go back to the parenting style that usually we were raised with.
Yep.
Which, you know, hands on to all you want who had like a great childhood, like, you know, chicken noodle salad at the lake. That wasn't me.
Chicken noodle salad at the lake. Hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. For anyone who's, if you're happy with how your parenting is going and like you're like generally happy and you just hit a few bumps in the roads, what I call like sort of like that's sort of normal parenting, like more power to you. You were raised with parents who did it right for you and you're not really facing these huge challenges. That's wonderful. And there are books out there for people and there are blogs out there and there are tips out there galore. But if you don't have that, if you're trying to parent differently than how you're parented and or you have a challenging child and or you just need more support because your child's triggering things in you that you didn't even know you had to be triggered until you had kids, or this particular kid, you need more than that, which is why I created the program. It's something that I could have really used when I had my first challenging child. I ended up having two challenging children, but you know, with all of my background and everything, I thought I had parenting down. I was like, I got this. And then I was getting triggered in ways I had no idea. So I created it for.
And that's very, very true.
Yeah.
And also parents often think they can parent all the kids the same way, and children are different. And that's not the case. Cause like I said, what worked for my older children that are in college now is not working here at all. It's not working here at all.
You have to become schizophrenic and be like a different parent to each child. I heard a therapist. Somebody I was talking to yesterday said a therapist told me to like split myself and be a different parent to each child. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I have a lot of respect for therapists, but that's very fucked up advice. Like, you need to be the parent that you know you are, and then tweak and address each child in a way that suits them, that lands with them. But like she was like, I was feeling crazy. I'm like, yeah, because that's crazy advice. Like, we need you to feel aligned with yourself and on point with what you're trying to accomplish, and then, you know, give different versions of that to each child. But it was just like, it was like one of the many pieces of crazy advice I've heard from so-called experts. I was just like, that's nuts.
What I also have found to be helpful is because I have this support group and I have a place where I can go and get direction. What I have noticed, which has been very good for me, is that when I'm with my friends, I don't talk about this stuff as much. And I actually get to be the adult Sandy that wants to just go out with her friends and talk about silly girl stuff that has literally changed through decades, where we're laughing because we're like, we used to talk about this kind of stuff and now we're talking about that kind of stuff. But at least we're talking about us and not this going on with my kids. How do you help me? And now I get to have my friend time and my spouse time, not inundated with all of this, which is so great for me as a human being. You know, because we, as parents, it's always on. You don't ever get that time away just to be you.
That is so well said. I could not have said that better myself. And I'm so glad that you raised that point, because when people are looking to their friendships or even their partnerships or their family to be their, even though that's their tribe, that's like their people tribe, but they look to them to be their parenting tribe, it can put a lot of pressure on those relationships if they're not giving you advice that you like. They're telling you stuff to do that you're like, that's not going to work for my kid. And you start talking about parenting with them, it can really stress that relationship, and it can drive a wedge between you and your friends, you and your partner, you, whoever. And so you really need, like, you just said it so much better than I could, but it's a point that I've been trying to, make with people who are like, I'm in this certain community and the community is telling me to parent, whether it's a church or a synagogue or whatever, just like a neighborhood community, all the parents are parenting a certain way. And like, it's not how I want to do it, and it just relieves the pressure when you have your people for the parenting, and then you're able
Yes, it's awesome.
yeah, you're able to focus on having those other relationships be very clean and very light. They don't get weighed
The
down.
other really awesome thing is sometimes I've gone back and watched the videos because everything that you said was so good. And I was like, okay, there's some things in here I could actually talk to John about, but I have to figure out how to pull it out. But I'm listening and I'm trying to comprehend what you're saying. And so I can go back and watch the video again, which is super helpful. And I've actually added, like, on my thing, like, go back and watch the one from 424, go back and watch the one from 416, because they were the questions that I asked you gave me such great answers that I'm like, in a month from now, I want to go back and watch it and put it on my calendar to see how we're doing on the progress. So that's another thing that's awesome, where if someone misses it, they can go back and watch the video, which is a wonderful tool.
Yeah. So good. It's so good. Sandy, you're such a badass.
Oh, thanks. Because it's so funny. It's great that I actually get some compliments, because all I keep thinking is how much more I need to change, or how much more I want to change. Or every single time that old parenting from my family comes up, I just literally like shut down. But now I'm coming into the point, like, I'm going to get another opportunity to try this out again.
Yeah, you will. Lots and lots of opportunities. You're doing so amazing. I can't believe you're like in your second month. I mean, I can, but like, seriously, this could be like an exit kind of interview.
It literally was like divine intervention that I found you when I did, because if we didn't have this level of like connectedness and also on point with the homework going into middle school, could have really derailed him big time.
Long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's serious.
So I'm so grateful that you do this work that you do, and you do it with so much love and so much gentleness and so much compassion and so much support. I adore you. I love you.
Oh, thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much for talking today. And we should definitely do another check-in, see how you're doing,
Absolutely.
See how this is going for you. So thank you so much for talking today. I hope that, this has helped anybody out there who's listening, who's thinking about, how do I make this happen in my family? Like, things are just not on course the way I want them to be. You've got a middle schooler, maybe you've got an elementary school kid or a toddler, and you're just like, we're not tracking the way that I want to be tracking. I hope that what Sandy has shared today has helped you know that there is a path. Working with me is definitely on the table, and you can go ahead and book a call. You don't have to wait or hope and pray for me to come to your town and do a talk. You can book a call. You can book a call with me. I will call, we'll talk on the phone, and we can get you feeling awesome. And, Sandy is certainly, as you can see, is just amazing. But her results are not magical. Like, they're not, there's no secret to it. She's showing up, she's doing the work, she has a plan, she's following the recipe that's being given to her, and she's just showing up and doing the work. So like I said, I'm so proud of you, Sandy.
And if anybody wanted to call me, and ask questions, before, they decide, I'm so happy to be a resource of referral for you. Like, if someone wanted to, because I love what is happening in our family. I love how much more our family's doing so well now, and I'm so happy.
I'm so delighted to hear that. Well, you heard it. I mean, I'm not going to pass around your phone number, but maybe a thing to do would be to PM you, in the group or something, and see if people want to reach out to you to ask you some questions. That would be awesome. Thank you. That's very generous of you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right.
So have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day too. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay.